Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. Please be seated. During the Great Corona, we didn't take any PPP money? Is that what it's called? Yes. And they sent me 2 checks for I don't know what reasons. Both up there framed. We tried to ask them why they sent me money. Nobody knew. None of the companies I was involved with took any Corona money. We paid all the employees full, even if they didn't work. I don't know anybody else that did that. No, we didn't take, I mean, from the government. I mean, we didn't take any money at all. I didn't think it was right. I thought it was a stupid thing to do. And if you couldn't stay in business, you ought to starve anyway and go fuck yourself, kill yourself. I still believe that. I don't believe in money for minorities or any of that shit. I just don't. And I never have. And certainly, when people like, I remember Ruth Chris, great restaurant chain, they took $7 million. The Lakers took $11 million. Something ain't right. Something's just not right. Economics 101, the world, is based on supply and demand, not government support. But anyway, I'm just thinking that because I just saw an email from somebody. And there was some confusion. There wasn't confusion to me. Some confusion what money had to be paid back and what money didn't have to be paid back. Unless you were brain dead like you, there was no fucking confusion whatsoever. You just decided, you would try to take advantage, not you, but the general public decided that they would try to take advantage of the system and not pay it back. Now, several years later, the long arm of the law is dragging people in. And of course, now they're bust, broke. Some of them are living in tents. Or not tents, those homeless. And they get what they deserve. They're getting what they deserve, in my judgment. Which is another reason I probably didn't get elected. I went back and looked at my website last night vis-a-vis all your questions. They're all answered on my website. Every fucking one of them. And I didn't even go to the YouTubes and all the other shit. That's why kids are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in deals and never coming here. And we don't answer questions, on YouTube and that. We don't answer questions. Once in a while we look at them, and Kat and somebody else on the team check for violations of our privacy or whatever, but we don't answer those questions. We don't answer those questions. But now, so far, questions right now on anything before we get started. Excuse me. Who did you see last night? You know the story, adopted, bullshit. Depending on what story you want to believe, he entered university, he either stayed 3 hours, 3 days, or 3 weeks, I don't know. And he dropped out and he said that they got all morons, which I couldn't agree with more. Started with the Wozniak, who is a mentee of one of my mentees now. One of those guys is training the Wozniak, co-founder. Wasn't interested in, should have sounded familiar to you. I'm not interested in a lot of his product, not all of his product, a lot of his product that first came out didn't work. But you got to know, you got to understand. You got to understand the 60-40. What do you do with the 40? It doesn't make a fuck. Just stick it up your ass. And even though I'm making this little speech, you got to know about the 40. And here I'm giving presentations to the American Petroleum Institute, arguably the fine, with the signs up of a fucking charts upside down. But you got to know what the fucking 40 means. You know how ludicrous that is? Because you're afraid. You're scared. For those of you that watched the movie Oppenheimer, I found it a little boring because I know a lot about that stuff. In a famous line, he's making to Matt Dillon, who was the 2-star general or the 1-star general. There's only a 0.5% or 1% that the world's going to blow up. I thought that was a fucking riot. And he turns and says, what? You mean there's a possibility that the whole fucking world's going to implode or explode? You'd still be waiting. As Tojo came across from the fucking Hawaii to teach you how to speak Japanese. Do you see how fucking ludicrous this is? When you have no sacks. And that's what it gets down to. You're cowards. Now, entire lives that have been, what have you experienced? Weak, lackluster parents, no high-performance role model, low bar of expectations, little or no accountability, little or no responsibility, leading to little or no accomplishments, leading to our snowflake society. And here you are, 40 grand later. This seminar is not going to change. We have had peptide doctors and steroid, muscle guy doctors that give you shots straight to your penis, but I mean it wears off. Occasionally you get fucked up and you have a hard on for 4 or 8 or 12 hours, which I don't think was such a bad thing myself. But anyway, that's my own opinion. You got to go to the doctor. Then they give you another shot in the penis to get rid of your dick, hard dick. Well, this seminar is not going to grow you any sacks. If I had that ability, I can't even, it's staggering. If I could go sacks, balls on you. But I can't strengthen your resolve. Asking yourself and your teams these critical questions. If you shifted your approval addiction to preference approval, what you take more risks? What risks would you take? Right now you're pleasers. For one way or another, you can call it whatever the fuck you want. You're here because you've been pleasers. Mostly because of your parents. Not all. Some because of who you married or didn't marry. You're pleasers. Does anybody not understand that? Even the 2 or 3 of you that can punch fairly hard, you're still pleasers. In one form, and a couple, 2 or 3 of you punched harder because you're letting out aggression. We had a guy, 4 or 5 seminars. I mean, I've been doing this a few years. I mean, he should be a professional. He should be a professional light heavyweight. I mean, guy hit like a motherfucking train. And I told him in a one-on-one time, it happened to be the day after we graduated, you should seriously consider professional boxing. And guess what he did? And guess what? I think he's 7-0. Is that right? 7, yeah, is that right? Okay. He had so much aggression pent up. He wanted to kill literally. But what have we been taught? Swallow it. Don't raise up your head. When I went to school, keep your head down, Danny. Don't get in trouble. Don't do this. And I did just the opposite. What could you go back and change? This is not homework tonight. Normally this comes 2 days before, but wait until now. What would you go back and change? For one thing, what kind of change are you talking about, Dan? Dalai Lama's birthday celebration. Did any of you go to the Dalai Lama's last 2 birthdays? I didn't think so, okay? Some of my mentees are tight with the Dalai. Until Dalai sucked the lips off that kid about 2 years ago. Kissing him, remember? Almost all personal development, self-help guys are perverts. Almost all. Not all, but almost all. The Dalai said, praying is important, meditation is important, but action is the most important. When presented with opportunity to act, we must take it. Action, action, action. Of course, all the guys always have their hand out for money. Not the least of which him. He's fragile now, he's old. I'm not going to beat him up too much. But just the opposite. Even the churches. Action, action, action. And it normally relates to giving them money. But what about action, action, action for yourself? You need excuses for what is wrong in your life. Now, I've heard about 2/3 of you one-on-one. And 2 or 3 of you even said, I'm not using it as an excuse, but. And then you tell me. And of course, it is an excuse. But intellectually, you're bright enough, which I choke when I'm saying that, intellectually, you're bright enough to know it's an excuse. Comfy life. 2 or 3 of you actually have comfortable lives. But, I mean, in other words, you're not starving. Well, 2 or 3 of you are starving. But, I mean, so you got 2 or 3 have comfortable lives, and you got 2 or 3 that are starving, living off the gas pipe, the pipe that's running out of the back of the car. But it's easier for the comfy lifestyles to make excuses why you're not making any changes. But a couple or 3 of you that have comfortable lifestyles do want to still change. Because, you know that there's other things that you can be doing. Jack Welch said it better than I. There's no such thing as work-life balance. There are work-life choices, and you make them, and they have consequences. And God knows. I've reaped those consequences big time. Best schools, best this, best that, nannies, governors, not dissimilar to Baron Trump. Making them have an appointment to talk to me with an agenda, and maybe I can talk to them in 4 or 5 weeks. Most of you in this room would trade your lives for theirs because they're successful. In the top 1.5%, maybe top 2% of what people consider successful out there in the world. I consider it failure. And of course, they know that. So they don't want to talk to me. Because I only ask hard questions. If Dan can spend a week, yeah, we'll change your life. We know that. Now, this guy was he was pretty successful in life. And I told him the truth about life. And he didn't want to accept it. And then now he's a gazillionaire. Go back and look at that again. He said his dreadlocks were his religion. I don't give a fuck if you brush your teeth with your dreadlocks. But now he's a gazillionaire. He's not. You're going to see a few more. This is a Russian guy who's thick as a fucking 2x4. 2x4 is a piece of wood. And then, now he's a gazillionaire. That used to be his dress uniform, the first one. Now he's a gazillionaire. This guy, a Nazi, okay, freewheeling Nazi. He was one of the first guys that got into, is it vaping? Is that vaping, right? Now he's a gazillionaire. He turned down 1.2 billion euros for his consortium. This guy went from illegal weed to legal weed in Canada in 2017 when they made it legal. And now he's a gazillionaire. Remember I told you have 2 times to make a first impression. First, when they look at you, And then when you open your big fucking mouth and you stick your fucking foot in it. This guy was one of the first internet gurus back in the 90s. He used to live in like a hut on the beach, like the guy that is supposed to have invented Bitfuck in a cave in Japan, which is all horseshit. Now he's a gazillionaire. One of you asked me yesterday, is the uniform important? Don't go if you're not wearing the uniform. If you live in Haiti, Panama, Peru, the uniform works. A couple of times we've heard on webinars, we called up, first for the pig fucker, he says, we called up my chairman, who's right, a neighbor, he was Mr. Peña, not exactly a close neighbor, and he was wearing casual clothes, and in the first 15 to 20 minutes, all he did was apologize for being dressed like a fucking pig. Because the pig fucker was wearing his little three-piece shit thing. All we need is a little leverage. And when you have your board meeting that's a Zoom fuck, and they're all dressed like pig fuckers, and you're wearing your uniform, you'll have to cut it short for them apologizing for dressing like pigs. Same with bankers. And then there's a infamous, and the first time he dressed like that, when I met him, with that little piece of shit on his chin, having his hair spiked up so he could look half an inch taller because he's a dwarf, like some of you. Some of you should either get, no, I'm being sarcastic now. You know, you can have leg extensions, for real, for those of you that are midgets. You can have leg extensions up to 4 inches, very painful, rather than spike your hair. And then, we live in such a shallow world that looks count. I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying it fucking works. And if you don't think it works, you're a moron. Give me another 40 grand, and I'll give you a pretend course. I'll give you another thumb drive that doesn't have anything on it. This is one of you a couple of years ago. Very successful guy in Canada. Goody two-shoes, and he writes back, I'm such a wreck. Emotionally, I can almost not deal with the burden. I need help. I can't think through this mountain. He was going to kill himself. Now, do you think that I let him cry on my shoulder? No. Did I answer his calls? No. Because I get calls like this. Daily would be an exaggeration. Because I know talking to me is not going to do you any good. Taking action and pulling the motherfucking trigger is what you need to do. And it normally starts with, remember I told you the guy that caught his son stealing and he put him in jail and his wife left him? You don't have to look beyond your own close family net. Anyway, you know what? Close family, though it's fucking up your life. I'm telling you how it is. It's a sad commentary. The world's fucked up.